My people, how are they? I say good morning, good afternoon, good evening, good night, depending on where you're listening to the sound of my voice. This is the Biafra Superstars Media. My people, the video you're about to watch is the U.S. Congressman Riley Moore speaking on how the Nigerian government uses the Sharia law to oppose Christians in Nigeria. This video will blow your mind. Listen to a snippet of the video. A very sad one. Watch it.
I want to read something from Nigeria's president. He says the characterization of Nigeria as religiously intolerant doesn't reflect our national reality. Religious freedom and tolerance have been a core tenet of our collective identity and shall always remain so. Nigeria opposes religious persecution and does not encourage it. He says the picture we're getting here is not accurate.
You know, unfortunately, that is completely false. I mean, there are states in Nigeria that have blasphemy laws, people who are facing the death penalty right now for blasphemy against Islam. There's a person currently right now who's held in prison for defending himself from attack from a Muslim militant from the Fulani tribe. He defended himself, and he's facing the death penalty. So, no, there's serious persecution happening in Nigeria. I know the president, Tinubu, is in a difficult position and trying to protect his interests there in that country, but they are complicit in this to one degree or another with statements like this.
Hold it there. Lord have mercy. Thank you so much, Riley Moore. It seems like you really get, you get it. You understand Nigeria very well. I am so impressed. In fact, I'm really impressed that Senator Riley Moore understands the complexity of Nigeria very well. Because some other countries like Denmark, they fall for these gimmicks. Today as we speak, the president of Denmark, President Alexander Stubb, he fell for the gimmicks. And what he did was to jail a Christian Finnish citizen, or did I say Denmark? The president of Finland, President Alexander Stubb, he fell for the trickery of the Nigerian government. He fell for the CDS, the Chief of Defense Staff, and the rest of them that came to him lying about a Christian who is the Prime Minister of Biafra, His Excellency Simon Okpe, who is based in Finland. A man without a criminal record. A man who served in the Finnish military. A man who is a politician in Finland. Finland tagged him a terrorist. They said his exposure of what Nigeria is doing to the Christians and the Biafrans in Nigeria are terror related. That he was showing those gruesome videos of Nigerian military killing the Christians and the Fulani militias. We call them the Fulani killer headsmen, but I prefer the word the Fulani militias. I think that's the real, because they want to hide the narrative as headsmen. They are not headsmen. They are Fulani militias. So Simon Ekpa was exposing this on his X page. Something in the Nigerian media, they've been barred not to discuss it, not to speak about it, to call them bandits. They are calling terrorist bandits in Nigeria. The media of Nigeria are only allowed to call the terrorist bandits. Oh my God, have mercy. So Finland fell for the tricks of Nigeria and they jailed a black Finnish citizen for 6 years. They called him a terrorist. While Nigeria doing the terrorism, we're hailed by Finland. But we are so glad that today, as we speak, America gets it. America gets it. God's own country. I know if the whole world will fail us, America cannot fail us. Because of that, I will break this video down. I need to break this video down because what Congressman Riley Moore said here is very, very vital. He understands the secret of Nigeria. He gets it. And I want the whole world to understand that we, the Biafrans, we came out of the womb of Nigeria. And when we say that what Senator Riley Moore is saying here is perfect, you best believe it's perfect. So let's take it back one more time and I'll break it down. Listen, please, pay attention.
I want to read something from Nigeria's president. He says the characterization of Nigeria as religiously intolerant doesn't reflect our national reality. Religious freedom and tolerance have been a core tenet of our collective identity and shall always remain so. Nigeria opposes religious persecution and does not encourage it. He says the picture we're getting here is not accurate.
Wow, oh Lord have mercy. I can't believe it's coming from a man who did the unthinkable in Nigeria. A man who did the unthinkable in Nigeria. Now they go to it, they say, oh, but don't blame him, his wife is a Christian. In fact, they say his wife is a pastor. But you see, these men in politics in Nigeria, they can do the unthinkable just to change the narrative in politics. I will ask you to show me his first wife. She was a Muslim, a hardcore Muslim. A woman who spent most of her time going to Mecca, doing the Hajj, till this day as we speak. All his children who are of age, most of them in their 50s, 60s, they're all hardcore Muslims. But in order for him, because that man had a blueprint to become president of Nigeria, but he knew he was against the odds because he was a Muslim from the South. And in most cases, if you're a Muslim from the South, it will be hard for you to become president because in the North, they are mainly Muslims. And in most cases, to balance out the political ticket, the Muslim has to come from the North while the Christian comes from the South. That's the only way you can balance it out, to show you how unfair Nigeria is, or those in the North, because they don't believe any Christian from the North can be allowed to be president. It's only a Muslim that can be allowed to be president. So if you're from the South, you must be a Christian in order to be able to even phantom being a president, because your vice president will come from the North and that person will be a Muslim. So that's the only way it can work. But in his case, he is a Muslim from the South. So what he did was, in the year 2014, he was one of those who wrote to America, who complained about Christian genocide in Nigeria. Mr. Tinubu, or President Tinubu as they call him, he was among those who wrote to America, the APC cartel that wrote to America and gave a true representation of what was happening in Nigeria then. And they called it the persecution of Christians. He even said that the then President Goodluck Jonathan, a Christian, should resign because he is not protecting the Christians in Nigeria. They called it a genocide of the Christians in 2014. But in his own selfish analysis, in his own selfish master plan, he was looking at his age and he said to himself, the Christian president, Goodluck Jonathan, who was supposed to do 8 years in office, 2 terms, he said, if he allows this Christian to complete, his second term in office, that will be 8 years. So it means Mr. Tinubu might get older and maybe too old to be in politics because they all, have fake age. He claims he's in his 70s, but when you look at him, he's somebody who is in his 90s now. He's probably 91, 92 years old, but he claims he's in his 70s, which is more like a fallacious statement to call a spade a spade. So, in his own political calculations, they said they have to expose the Christian genocide happening in Nigeria in 2014, and they said it was the Muslims doing it, and that if they can allow this Muslim president in the name of Muhammadu Buhari, who was a retired general, if they could allow him to become president in 2015, being a general as he is, being a military general that he is, he'll be able to stop the uprise of Boko Haram, ISIS, and the rest of them. So they went with the narrative, and he made sure that Goodluck Jonathan, the president, only did 4 years as a president. Then came President Muhammadu Buhari in 2015. At that point, Nigerians, they all know, the media, they know that Muhammadu Buhari was a grand patron of Boko Haram, ISIS, ISWAP, and the rest of them. Now, they had a deal, Lord have mercy. They had a plan B. Plan A was to win the election. If it doesn't go their way, on the eve of the election or on the day the result will be, they declare the winner, their plan B was to now use the terrorists to take over Nigeria. And that way, chase away the president who is supposed to be, made president, and Nigeria will just go into oblivion. The terrorists come, run down Nigeria, while he now comes as a savior to calm down the terrorists and continue as the president. That was the plan B. But unfortunately for them, while their plan A wasn't working out, they were looking at plan B. They now told the terrorists that they will be given the green card, the green line, the green light to come into Nigeria. And the price was to Islamize Nigeria. They told them, hey, our forefathers, somebody we love so much, our idol, our teacher, the great Usman Dan Fodio, promised that we must have a caliphate in West Africa. Nigeria is that land. If you guys come and fight with us, we shall create an Islamic country in Nigeria, run under Sharia law. And by so doing, we have succeeded in making the dreams of Usman Dan Fodio to come to reality. So that was what they did. The plan B was going in full motion. We heard about the Chibok girls, they were kidnapped, bring back our girls. But they made a miscalculation. The Tinubu was then the head of the APC. He was the head of the political party doing all the strategy back then. They made a mistake in the sense they never knew that President Goodluck Jonathan would walk away before the result of the election, was displayed to everyone in Nigeria. They never knew he would walk away. So as they were about to carry out the plan B, the terrorists were coming through the borders. All the borders in the north were wide open. There was no border check, no border controls. Terrorists were coming with guns into Nigeria. So when the president, Goodluck Jonathan, saw what was happening, he panicked. And he said, the lives of Nigerians is not worth him fighting to be president. So he considered defeat at the 11th hour. That way, President Muhammadu Buhari became president of Nigeria in 2015. Unfortunately, they had a deal with the caliphate. Unfortunately, they had an agreement with a terrorist. Unfortunately, they had a contract with Boko Haram, ISIS, ISWAP, to Islamize Nigeria. That was the goal. That was the agreement. So when Buhari became president, and he was now trying to change the terms of the deal by paying these people money, they say, hey, the money is not the problem. Our agreement is for you to allow us to come in and create an Islamic country in Nigeria. So suddenly, there was a problem. Hence, the terrorists went gaga, they went crazy, they were so pissed off with the government that they started killing people, doing kidnapping, and enforcing Sharia in Nigeria. They were not carrying out the Islamization of Nigeria by themselves. And sometimes when they speak to the press, they said, go and ask your government. They know why we are angry with them. Go and speak to your government. We had an agreement with them, which they ain't carrying out. So don't blame us for doing the killing. Go and speak to your government. Tell them to confess the reason why we are doing what we are doing. At that point, the Nigerian media were barred from calling them who they are, the terrorists. At that point, a new name came for them. They were now called bandits. And they also were called headers. That was a way to deflect the killings of the Christians being done by these terrorists in a bid to Islamize Nigeria. So they called them bandits, and they hoped it would be a phase that would just go away. But unfortunately, it did not go away. It intensified. And suddenly, the Fulani militias, known as the Fulani killer headsmen, they now had an agreement with the Nigerian government that the best way to go in order to avoid Boko Haram doing what they are doing, the best way to go is for these guys to go into communities, kill people. And when people leave their villages, their land, their communities, you can go in and resettle in those communities. And probably that's a fair deal. Do that, then technically, hopefully, Boko Haram and the rest of them will now calm down and see that the process is moving towards Islamization of Nigeria. I tag the process the Islamification of Nigeria. So whenever they go into those communities, they kill as much as possible, they scare everybody out, everybody runs to the IDP camp. Now, when those villages become empty, abandoned, suddenly the government will now call the Fulani killer headsmen all across the Sahel, from Mali, Mauritania, Senegal, you name it, Niger, Chad. They all come to those abandoned communities to resettle. And once they've resettled, they now change the name of the communities. So this was the peace deal that they assumed they had in order to compromise with the agreement that they have failed to live by. They refused to fulfill the agreement they had with the terrorists from the beginning. So the mastermind of all this, the man with the master plan, was the one they call President Tinubu. He was the one that went to the north to bring in Buhari and said, I will make you president, but promise me, after 8 years, you will pass the baton on to me to rule. Which was a bit strange because he was Muslim from the south. But he said, don't worry, I'll work it out. But promise me, if I make you president, after 8 years, you pass the baton on to me. So it now meant that when Buhari finished his 8 years tenure, Tinubu, although he didn't win the election, but he had the control of the government. He had the control of the police, the might of, the judiciary and the rest of them. He was able to pay his way through. And before you knew it, Tinubu did the unthinkable to come up with a new phenomenon in politics that is not acceptable. It's more like a taboo for somebody from the south to be a Muslim and wants to be president. because you can only be a Christian from the South to have the chance of being a president, because the vice must come from the North and they must be Muslims. So Tinubu said no. He was going to do a Muslim ticket where he himself will be a Muslim from the South and a Muslim from the North will be his vice. The only way that could work, Lord have mercy, the only way the North could accept it was for Tinubu to accept or to choose a running mate who is a patron of Boko Haram in the name of Alhaji Shetima. He is a grand patron of Boko Haram. So when he chose Shetima, it again reignited the flames for an Islamic country. And the North were not happy about it. That somebody who is a patron of Boko Haram was chosen as the vice president. And also, the headsmen, the Boko Haram, ISIS, ISWAP, they got the message. That was a coded message to let them know, hey, calm down, guys. We are still in business. So when that happened, they also came with tribalism, nepotism, and the rest of them. And suddenly, through the courts, through buying of the Electoral Commission of Nigeria, Tinubu became the president of Nigeria in the year 2023, 2 years ago. But that meant the agreement with the terrorists was now signed and sealed. So the terrorists had to now have their leeway to do what they were doing. So they came into Nigeria, going into villages, killing people, taking over lands, resettling into lands. So what you see happening all across Nigeria, in Benue, Plateau, has been going on unchecked. For the past 2 years, it's even now worse. They have been unchecked. And President Tinubu is not speaking about it because he knows he can do nothing about it. He's been turning the blind eyes to what is happening in Nigeria. Until God's own country, America, spoke. Until Donald Trump spoke about it and made Nigeria a country of personal concern. So the brainchild of this Islamization, it was hatched in the mind of somebody who was a Muslim from the South and wanted to be president at all cost. He came with a slogan, which means, or which says, Egbe kini wa emi lokan. It's a Yoruba language. Egbe kini wa emi lokan. It means in English, you guys should bring this to me. It is my turn to rule. He was speaking to the cabal, the rulers of Nigeria, those that Britain told they were born to rule. He was speaking to the Islamic Caliphate. And hey, I'm the kingmaker. I'm the one that made Buhari president. And I had an agreement with him that after 8 years, he will pass it on to me. But then it might be hard because that will be going against the grain. To become a president, you must be a Christian from the South. Because there is no way in the North they will allow a Christian to be the vice president or the president. It must be a Muslim to show you that technically the North, they believe in Sharia and Nigeria was turned into an Islamic country from the North. So what Tinubu did is the price we are paying today. The actions of one man, Mr. Tinubu, or President Tinubu, is why the Christians have been martyred at an alarming rate for the past 2 years. The action of this man called Tinubu is the reason why the headsmen, the Fulani militia and the rest of them now believe that they can Islamize Nigeria through a process known as Islamification. With Islamification, I mean from village to village, communities to communities, slowly and steadily. We now have close to 7 million people in IDP camp. I repeat, we now have close to 7 million people living in IDP camps. It means 7 million people have left their villages, their communities. And those villages, those communities are now being reoccupied by the Fulani militia, their children, their family from the Sahel. Undocumented, illegal, criminal immigrants. Undocumented terrorists allowed to bear arms in a country where we don't have the Second Amendment. The right to bear arms. We don't have it in Nigeria. But these terrorists, they have the license to bear arms. They have the license to kill in Nigeria. So when Tinubu is saying here that he knows nothing about it, he is a liar. He is a deceiver and he is selfish. Everything falls on his hand because it came from his mind. He's an evil genius. So let's take it back now one more time and hear what he said, that he has no idea of what's going on in Nigeria and the Christians, and Muslim, all those bullshit he was talking about. Now hear it again, you now understand how of a pathetic liar that man is. Listen now.
I want to read something from Nigeria's president. He says the characterization of Nigeria as religiously intolerant doesn't reflect our national reality. Religious freedom and tolerance have been a core tenet of our collective identity and shall always remain so. Nigeria opposes religious persecution and does not encourage it. He says the picture we're getting here is not accurate.
The picture you're getting is accurate. That man is the mastermind of what is happening now, because he went against the grain. The golden rule in Nigeria is the president from the south must be a Christian in order to balance the vice president from the north being a Muslim. And also, a Muslim candidate cannot come from the south because it will mess up the balance in Nigeria. Tinubu was the first to do it. He came with a Muslim ticket, but he bought his way through in order to execute such abomination. A taboo in Nigeria. In a place where the Christians are strong. The Christians are respected. The Christians make things happen. The Christians are the movers and shakers of the economy in Nigeria. Most of the industries are owned by the Christians. They are highly respected worldwide. But Tinubu did the unthinkable. He came with a master plan. Married a woman who was a Christian, a pastor. So that way, people might see it as a soft blow. But today, we know that some so-called Christian pastors from the Yoruba side were Muslim clerics that converted to Christians in the 80s. They were Muslim students, Muslim scholars that were sent. They were deliberately sent to pretend to have converted into Christianity. And the Nigerian government, under the one they call IBB, Ibrahim Badamasi Babangida, he made sure he funded those men, those Islamic clerics who claim they are now born-again Christians. He funded them to open churches all across Nigeria in order to control, curtail the rise of the Catholic Church, to checkmate the rise of the Anglican Church, to checkmate some other activities, like from the Pentecostal churches and the rest of them. That was the master plan done by a military general who was the head of state. And that same man was the one that enrolled Nigeria into the OIC, the Organization of Islamic Countries. When he did that, the next assignment he got from Turkey and Saudi Arabia was to control the rise of Catholicism in Nigeria. This was done in the 80s, late 80s, I believe. So suddenly, Muslims were turning to Christians and opening churches, mega churches all across Nigeria. So when the time for the Muslim ticket came, nobody spoke. Those pastors were telling their church members that it was okay. It's not about the religion of the president no more. That God will use somebody to change Nigeria. So they refused to speak out. When the ultimate taboo happened in Nigeria. To America, Nigeria is complex. Nigeria is complex. The criminality in Nigeria is complex. The end goal is Islamization, but the process is through Islamification of Nigeria. People are changing the way they dress now in order to get those jobs, to get those contracts in government. They have to start wearing the hijab. Our women now wear hijab sometimes in order to get a contract or to be around the corridors of power, to be around those strong men in government, going around with them, going to Mecca with them, doing Hajj with them, going to Saudi Arabia with them. They do all these things now. And the way you can be around them is to dress like them. You wear your kaftan, you go to the, this is what is happening in Nigeria. Islamification of Nigeria. But the end goal is the Islamization of Nigeria. So let's continue. Listen.
Unfortunately, that is completely false. I mean, there are states in Nigeria that have blasphemy laws, people who are facing the death penalty right now for blasphemy against Islam.
Tell me it's not true. Let the whole world tell me this is not true. Let those in Nigeria tell me what Senator Riley Moss just said now. It's not true. The 12 states in Nigeria, the 12 northern states, that uphold and apply the Sharia law, they know that the blasphemy law is complementary with the Sharia law. It is complementary. It is part of it. It is something they cannot do without in the North. The other time when an artist from Denmark drew a picture about what's his name again? The prophet. When they drew a picture about him in faraway Denmark, the Christians in Nigeria were killed. Whenever something happens in the Western world against their prophet, the Christians in Nigeria pay the price. Always the Christians in the North. The Christians in the North, they pay the price. So definitely there's a Sharia law going on and blasphemy law. And it's been applied the harshest way you can ever think of. It's been applied the harshest way you can ever think of. I give a very quick story. There was this guy was fetching water for a Christian. A Muslim man was fetching water for a Christian. And when he was paid, he wasn't happy with the money they paid him. So he got angry. He went outside of the Christian man's house and told the people he just saw the Christian man tear a page of the Quran to wipe the floor, to clean, something that he tore the page of the Quran. There was no evidence of a Quran in the Christian man's house, but he was still pulled out. He was beaten. He was lynched. His head was chopped off, put on a stake, and they went round the whole state in the North with his head on a stick. And they were chanting, Allahu Akbar, Allahu Akbar, Allahu Akbar. Something as little as that someone just lied on you, you become a dead man. Lord have mercy. May his soul rest in peace. That made the airwave throughout the whole media back then. People were scared. That how is that possible? Does that mean someone just have to lie on you? And that means you're guilty? And on the spot, they place judgment on you, and you're dragged out, beaten, unconscious, head chopped off. We all should know about the story of Deborah. I won't even go there. No, you already know the story of Deborah. A young girl who was thanking Jesus that she studied and read and prayed to God, and Jesus helped her, and she passed her exams in flying colors. For the fact she mentioned that Jesus, the Son of God, helped her. To them, that was a blasphemy. Because according to Islam, they say Jesus is just a prophet. So for her saying Jesus, the Son of God, helped her to pass her exam, she was beaten black and blue. She was stoned. She was unconscious on the floor, half dead, unconscious. But they were not satisfied. They took fuel, matches, and they burnt her up. Her so-called friends that she had on WhatsApp came to school and pointed at her that she has done blasphemy. She called Jesus the Son of God. Perhaps they didn't pass their own exams. Perhaps they were a bit jealous that she passed with flying colors. And they came and pointed at her that you, on WhatsApp, you said Jesus, Son of God, and helped you pass your exam. Blasphemy, blasphemy. And the whole crowd came. She was running. She ran into the office of her principal, where they have teachers. But this hoodlum still went in there, and they overpowered everybody. They told the principal she has done blasphemy. And the principal had no choice than to allow them to take her. Imagine that. A school principal had no choice than to allow them to take her. They took her out, dragged her out, stoned her. When she was almost dying, they were not happy enough. They poured fuel on her and they burnt her up. That's Nigeria for you. Nigeria is a very complex country, where even if there was no religion, we still have what they call tribalism, which is worse than racism. I repeat, tribalism. A tribalist is worse than a racist. Because in terms of tribalism, people who looks like you, the same skin tone, the same complexion, the same hair. They look like you, talk like you. They live with you. They do you. They hate on you. Lord have mercy. The pain is just too much. The pain is too much, you know. We the Igbos, the Biafrans, we've gone through hell in Nigeria. And when I speak sometimes, I get flashbacks. So I want to say to Congressman Riley Moore, you are right. You are 100% right. Tinubu is telling lies. There are Sharia laws that practice, or Sharia states that practice blasphemy. They practice blasphemy, and the punishment is very, very severe. It is very, very severe, because it's applied to everyone, not just the Muslims. It is applied to everyone. It is very, very severe. We cannot cope in Nigeria. We ain't supposed to be living as one. It's not possible, because we don't love ourselves. There's a war. It's a warring country. within itself. But with tribalism, two tribes comes together and they work against one. They oppress one, but they say, hey, we have this partnership deal, okay? We can work together and oppress those who owns the resources. We can oppress them. We have this deal. But unfortunately, you cannot have a deal with the Fulani Caliphate because their own intention is to Islamize Nigeria. So you cannot have a deal. It is dangerous having a deal with them. And today, President Tinubu is now seeing it now. Under his own watch, Nigeria is being Islamized. Under his own watch as the president, he has been betrayed by the North that they've now opened their borders and the Fulani militias are coming and Islamizing Nigeria. You cannot do a deal with the devil. You can't. You will get burnt at the end. You will get burnt. He sold his soul to the devil and the price was cheap. All because of power. This man is already a trillionaire. He's already rich. What else does he want to steal as a president of Nigeria? What else do you want? You're already rich. But no, greed. Because of greed. He has thrown Nigeria into the pit of hell, where the Christians are now cowering. Christians are being killed. Christians are being persecuted in Nigeria. Genocide happened in Nigeria. And this same government wants to lie about it. They've barred the media to speak about it. But we are glad. They can fool the whole world, but not America. They can fool the UN. They can fool the ICC. They can fool the African Union, AU, and the rest of them. But you cannot fool God's own country, America. In God we trust. And in Trump we trust. Today, the chicken has come home to roost. Their game is up because they cannot fool America. The Christians in Nigeria will remain Christians. You cannot convert us to the Muslims. We refuse to be Islamic converts in Nigeria. The game is up. The game is up. Thank God for America. Thank God for Donald Trump. God bless Donald Trump. God bless Donald Trump. God bless Senator Ted Cruz. And God bless Congressman Riley Moore. Thank you, Riley Moore. You've given us hope. You've given more than 130 million Christians living in Nigeria hope. We thank you. We thank you. Your works will be written in the books as the man from America who stood up at the time when Saudi Arabia thought the game was done. At a time when Saudi Arabia thought it was done and dusted. At a time when they felt, yes, they now have, the caliphate in West Africa. The heartbeat. What was one called the giant of Africa? They now have the caliphate. They can see the caliphate. They can see it. A place blessed with milk and honey. Resources, gold, diamond, oil, gas. This land will become the new Mecca in Africa. The Saudi bank was busy giving them loans upon loans to spread out the agenda. They came with Boko Haram where they said the Western education was bad. They opened a department that says innovation is haram. They have a department that says the eradication of innovation in Nigeria. Imagine that. A department in Nigeria that says eradication of innovation in Nigeria. Killing of dreams. Churches in the north no longer have lands to own. No more C of O. After 100 years, the state takes back the land if you have a church. And once they take it back off you, you cannot build or have that place as a church no more. Schools in the north, Christian schools have been told to recite Islam. Students have been told to wear hijab. Being a Christian in the north, schooling, you have been told to wear hijab. I spoke about the Islamification of the Christians, the Islamification of Nigeria. They thought the game was over. Those who were speaking about this were either killed, kidnapped, or locked up in jail. They thought the game was over. They thought Nigeria is now officially an Islamic country. They went to different forums to discuss with the Islamic countries. That even the then British Foreign Affairs Minister, Lord David Cameron, in the year 2023, he said he has met with all the Islamic countries pertaining to the issues with Israel and Palestine. And they've all unanimously agreed about the resolution in terms of Palestine being a free nation and the rest of them. And while he was mentioning all the Islamic countries, he mentioned Nigeria as one of those present in the meeting of the Islamic countries, meeting with Britain to discuss the affairs of Palestine. That was a red flag. That was a red flag for the Christians. But unfortunately, the so-called pastors with the mega churches, they said nothing about it. They didn't care. Because like I told you, they were Islamic students, Islamic clerics, who in the 1980s, they claimed they are suddenly Christian born-agains. And Nigerian government, the Nigerian Islamic government, gave them loans to open churches all across Nigeria. Now you understand why in every street or neighborhood there is a church in Nigeria. However, some of these churches are owned by these so-called Muslim clerics who turned born again. So even when they heard the news that Nigeria was listed as one of the Islamic countries that went to Britain to discuss with the Foreign Affairs Minister of Britain, Lord David Cameron, they didn't care about it. They said nothing about it. That was a sign that they assumed the time had come. Because on paper, Nigeria was officially an Islamic country. On paper, Nigeria was allowed to discuss in the league of the Islamic countries of the affairs of the Islamic world. On paper, Nigeria went with the Islamic countries to Britain to discuss the affairs of Palestine. On paper, Nigeria was an Islamic country. In practice, we now have the Fulani headsmen, Boko Haram, ISIS, the Fulani militias, doing the killing, doing the genocide, taking over villages, taking over towns, communities, Islamizing Nigeria, changing the demography of Nigeria. IDP camps floating everywhere. Every day as we speak, there's an IDP camp floating everywhere as we speak, filled with Christians. Name me one Muslim who is in an IDP camp. Let them show me one Islamist who is in the IDP camp. No, it's only the Christians who are there. And with Nigeria being a criminal country, they always reduce the numbers. The figures are wrong. The data are being shortened, hidden. Wrong data. So that the whole world will not be alarmed. But today I'm telling you that on average in a year, more than 50,000 Christians have been martyred. The 7,000 is a very, very low estimate. A very, very, very low conservative estimate. We know Nigeria very well. We came out of the womb of Nigeria. We know how they roll with the numbers. You know, we know what they do with the numbers. They think they're clever, but today, America is out there. God's own country is saying, you can fool us. You cannot fool us this time. For 16 years, America has been watching Nigeria. For 16 whole years, they've been observing Nigeria. The genocide happened to the Christians. And today, God's own country, oh my God, the God's own country, America, in God we trust. A country that told Britain, give me liberty or give me death. Give me liberty or give me death. God's own country. A people ready to fight and die for their freedom. And today they are rewarded to becoming the best country in the world, the strongest country in the world, and the number one superpower of the world. That title will forever be theirs. That title will forever be theirs because America is the last hope. We the Christians are saying thank you. We the Christians, we are saying thank you. Thank you to America. Thank you. And thank you. Let's wrap it up.
There's a person currently right now who's held in prison for defending himself from attack from a Muslim militant from the Fulani tribe. He defended himself and he's facing the death penalty. So no, there's serious persecution happening in Nigeria. I know the president, Tinubu, is in a difficult position.
Let him be. He's a liar. He's not in a difficult position. He was the mastermind of all this. He came with a mastermind because, let's not go there. The last president before him retired from politics and was staying in his village. He was done with politics. But Tinubu went to him and said, hey, come to me. I will make you president. Come to me. We ain't going to make it to retire. Come to me. I have a plan. Also, no one can doubt the story. I believe that man's name is Sunday. Mr. Sunday, a young man who was in his farm, doing his cultivation in his farm, and the Boko Haram came. The Fulani militias came to kill him. He was being stabbed. At the point of death, he used his last strength to hold onto the arm of the militiaman that was stabbing him with a knife. He was, by sheer luck, now able to overpower him, took the knife off him, and while they were struggling, he had to defend himself. He stabbed and stabbed and stabbed until the headsman left him. He ran away, only for the headsman to bleed and die as well, while he went home to recover from those wounds on his body. A Christian man at the point of death was able to overpower his killer and took the knife off him and stabbed his way through, ran home, bleeding. But the next day, while he was recovering, the Nigerian satanic military, the Nigerian Islamic military, came to his house. They arrested him. They said there is a dead Fulani militia man in his farm. He said, oh, he explained to them what happened. They saw him with all the injuries on his body, but he was arrested with his injury, went to court, and today he's been sentenced to death. Think about that. So Riley Moore is right. Riley Moore has all the information. I'm so glad that someone for the first time gets it. Finland should do better. To the president of Finland, Alexander Stubb, you must do better and release Simon Ekpa. You must do better. You must get it. Understand what is happening in Nigeria. It is a complex situation. You must speak to your American counterparts and get the understanding. Sit down and do a research. Get the info, get the details. Simon Ekpa is not the problem. He is the problem solver. We, the Biafrans, we are the problem. We are here to defend ourselves because they are coming to Islamize us. The same way they are doing in Benue, in Plateau, in Kwara State, they are coming as well in Taraba now. They are in Taraba as we speak. They are in Taraba State as we speak. They are coming to the Biafra land. And we, the Biafrans, we are the only one that can withstand them. We are not scared of the headsmen. We are not scared of Boko Haram. We ain't scared of ISIS. We ain't scared of Lakorawa. Let them come. But unfortunately, because the Nigerian government knows that the Christians in Biafra land, we are not scared of the terrorists. So they are coming with their military. They are coming with the air jets and air flyers to kill us. As we speak, Nigerian military, they have let go the Boko Haram. They are flying their fighter jets to Kano jets in Biafra land, bombing us because we are defending our land, because we are defending our borders from the encroaching Fulani killer headsmen. Nigerian government is bombing and killing the Christians in Biafra land because we choose to defend ourselves. That shows you that their hands are in the death of the Christians. Because the only Christians in Nigeria, we the Biafrans, the only Christians who dared to defend ourselves are being called terrorists. We have been proscribed. They proscribed the IPOB organization of more than 80 million people. IPOB, the Indigenous People of Biafra, was proscribed by the Nigerian government. Today, as we speak, our leader was kidnapped in Kenya, all the way in Kenya. Nigeria went to Kenya. Nigerian Islamic government, they went to Kenya to kidnap somebody and brought him to Nigeria. And for 5 years, he's been held in a solitary confinement. This man that was kidnapped was the only man who told us the secret that the Islamic caliphates, they were coming to Islamize us. They will come to seize your land, take over your land, your resources. They will come with their headsmen, with the guys that they were coming to eat the grass of your land. They will come with some policies, ranches in the communities of the Christians. They will come with Ruga. They will create some old routes where the cows can go from the north. The headsmen and the cows can come all the way from the north to the south. But by so doing it, they will now create a fort for the headsmen to stay. But from the fort, they will now lay out their ambush. That was the master plan. That would have been the fastest way to Islamize Nigeria. To create ranches all across the south where the Christians were. That way all the terrorists comes around and they abode with you in the guise of having a cow ranch. And by so doing, when they spring the attack, they will say, hey, I'm sorry, we can do nothing. It is the farmers and headers that are clashing all across Nigeria. That was the master plan of the caliphate. That would have been their best approach to Islamize Nigeria. But one man stood upon their way. One man stood on their way. The man known as Nnamdi Kanu. And till this day they are angry with him. Hence, they've held him for 5 years. And his trial is still going on. A man who was kidnapped from Kenya is going through trial in Nigeria. And the media of Nigeria is saying nothing about it. Nobody has asked the Nigerian government, how did you get this man from Kenya down to Nigeria? The media ain't speaking because they are scared. If they speak, they lose their license. If they speak, someone gets sanctioned. If they speak, journalists are locked up in jail. For that reason, the media, that should be the voice of the people, are quiet. They are quiet. It's very, very sad. Very, very sad.
trying to protect his interests there in that country, but they are complicit in this to one degree or another with statements like this.
I want to read something from Nigeria's president.
My people, I'll leave it here. For those that have ears, let them hear. For those that have ears, let them hear. No more talk.
Christianity is facing an existential threat in Nigeria. Thousands and thousands of Christians are being killed. Radical Islamists are responsible for this mass slaughter. I am hereby making Nigeria a country of particular concern. That's a legal definition. When the Christians or any such group is slaughtered, like is happening in Nigeria, 3,100 versus 4,476 worldwide. What horrible numbers. Something has to be done. I am asking Congressman Riley Moore, together with Chairman Tom Cole and the House Appropriations Committee, to immediately look into this matter and to report back to me. And I mean, like, immediately. The United States cannot stand by while such atrocities are happening in Nigeria and numerous other countries. It's not only Nigeria, it's all over. We stand ready, willing, and able to save our great Christian population around the world. This is not going to happen. The killing of Christians is not going to happen.